Welcome to today's webinar. My name's Josh and I work in the App Space marketing team. And today our webinar is going to be on the top 5 hybrid workplace challenges and how to solve them. So before we get started, a few housekeeping rules. We'd love to hear from you. So if you could put your questions in the right-hand side in the GoToWebinar panel, that would be great. At the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A session. So we have a bit of time for that. We also have a few polls today. So please make sure you're interactive and participate in those polls. We'd love to see some of those results. And we'll be sharing those results real time in the webinar. And of course, we're going to send you the recording and the slides. We hope to do that today or tomorrow at the latest, so you'll get everything before the weekend. And now I'm going to hand it over to Chaco to introduce himself. So I'm just going to give you the slides, Chaco.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You should have access, Chaco, to the slides. You should be in control.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Let's have a look.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's loading.
Okay.
It's always tricky with these transitions, but
yeah. On my end it says it is showing screen, but yeah, let me do it again. Sorry guys. Stop showing screen, show screen. Is it showing?
Not yet. It's coming.
Okay. Okay, meanwhile, I can still present myself without slides, I think. So my name is Umur Chaco. Chaco is my last name, but I go by it. It's mostly easy to pronounce. I'm an account executive at AppSpace, based in Lyon, France. And today I will be presenting the 2022 Workplace Trends and Insights reports. And still waiting for the slides to show.
We can see your slides, Chaco. You're just on the wrong slide. I think you need to go to slide number 3.
Right. There we go. Correct.
It's coming. We see an agenda slide. If you go back, yep, there we go. Perfect.
So as I
You're on the wrong slide, Chaco. I think you need to go. Yeah, that's the one.
All right. What a mess. But again, we will talk about these struggles of digital workplace also as presented in the report. So I would quickly like to talk about our agenda. 1 second. So the first topic to discuss is, of course, the latest workplace trends based on the survey that we conducted this year. We do it actually on a yearly basis, and this year's results are also quite exciting to discuss. Secondly, we will talk about what a hybrid environment looks like, because obviously since the pandemic, hybrid working and remote working have become really relevant topics for large and small enterprises. And then we will discuss the digital workplace strategy, and after a Q&A, we will wrap up. So let me just actually start with this slide. Obviously, the workplace trends are changing so fast that we got used to this momentum and somehow became numb to it. I was actually just thinking while Josh was doing the intros or starting the presentation, and I zoomed out for a moment and thought about this online webinar and realized that it's actually quite astonishing how we got used to this online setting, right? In detail, I'm actually a Turkish guy living in France, working from my home office in Lyon for an American company. And we organized this event with Josh, who is joining from his apartment in Barcelona. And Jamie just told me he's currently in Switzerland. So this is actually a live dynamic example of collaboration across different companies and locations. And that is why we wanted to keep up with the workplace trends and how this collaboration and communication type is being adopted by companies. And to talk about the survey, as I said, we actually did a similar one last year in the middle of the pandemic to find out what companies should do to improve engagement and remove friction and frustration from employees through the tools that they use. And this year's survey actually focuses on similar topics, but what is exciting for me is actually now the ability to see the changes by comparison. And I will be displaying different graphs from last year and this year. And this is probably due to the workplaces transitioning from a temporary pandemic phase, let's say, to a permanent one. So I believe it is safe to say now that the panic phase is slowly over, and companies are realizing that this is the new reality, and this new era is actually to stay for a longer period of time. And talking about the survey again, the format is that we did it in February with 800 full-time employees across different job levels and departments, also including 150 IT managers, predominantly based in the US. And the minimum company size was 1,000 employees. So as employees come back to the offices, there are some really cool key insights and lessons to ensure that hybrid working environment is successful. And it is actually a perfect time for a research like this. And the companies need to make a lot of decisions now in a limited runway, because hybrid working does not seem to be a temporary measure, just like I explained. So this transition will actually set the tone for the, let's say, future working habits and working environments. As I said, I work at AppSpace. It's actually Beezy/AppSpace because AppSpace acquired Beezy, which is the company that I started to work for last year. And it was in September in 2021. And since then, we have been working together to integrate Beezy into the AppSpace platform. And this is the beginning of the workplace experience platform, we can say, which is more holistic, because AppSpace is the first company to combine the intranet powered by Beezy with their original solutions, such as space reservation, digital signage, visitor management, all in a single intuitive platform. So, so the 5 key findings of the research that we have conducted are listed in here in short. First one is quite obvious, actually. Employees have left the office and many aren't looking back. I am an example as well. I'm actually working in my first full remote job. And secondly, companies still have a problem with employee happiness. This has been an issue also prior to, let's say, the challenges of hybrid or remote working, but now it is more relevant because you don't have those employees to have a quick chat now in your office, right? Thirdly, the technology should be, but isn't always an enabler. Well, this is the part where we become more and more relevant, because this is our claim, right? We want to offer a tool that actually allows you to use such technology that will allow you to enable a smooth collaboration and communication and increase employee happiness. And the future is hybrid, and we will talk about what that means for your business. But essentially, as we discussed, now it is more and more popular, and companies should address it sooner than later. And finally, we will talk about why it is important to include frontline and remote employees. This is more of a conclusion based on the findings of the survey. So I would actually like to start with the first poll. I think I need to hand it over to Josh to display his poll. Correct, Josh?
Yep, that's correct. If you can hand it back to me, Chaco, that would be great.
All right, there you go.
Okay, I think you can share my screen. Okay, let me just get that if you leave it. Okay, share my screen.
Yes, we see the screen now.
Okay, I'm just going to grab the poll. Okay, so just launched the poll. Should be able to see a poll there, Chaco and Jamie.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm just going to give everyone 30 seconds to reply to that. and then we're gonna show the results. So what is the primary reason for you attending today? Just to see from the audience why everyone is here. It's always interesting. Okay, I can see we're up to like 80% now of people have voted, so I'll give it another 5-10 seconds and then we'll close that.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks pretty stable. And let me share those results for you. I think you can see the results, Chaco and Jamie there.
Yes.
Yeah, we can. It's interesting. We can see that, and it's something we most of the time see to other customers, which is most of the people want to understand what are the other challenges the other organizations are facing, and they basically try to not make the same mistakes, right? So it's obviously common challenges. You'll also learn during that presentation, but definitely I understand the interest of making sure we haven't missed a key important point to fix, because these type of projects are very long and very challenging to implement end to end. And it's true that identifying this type of pain point very well in the beginning is one of the biggest thing to focus on. And of course, yeah, I can understand that improving the overall employee engagement is obviously the end goal, right?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Jamie. Obviously, people are interested to see the challenges other organizations are facing as well, and our survey is based on that, so I'm actually happy to see it. And of course, you're curious about how to improve the employee engagement, and I will make sure that I will touch on those points. And the rest of the two options actually are also relevant, because I will be talking about hybrid and remote work, let's say the efficiency, how is it a challenge, and how we can help you with that, or how can you improve it. And also the communication. Obviously, it's one of the key aspects of digital workplace, and we will definitely also talk about that. I think I can again share my screen to keep on. Josh?
Yep, I'm gonna give it back to you. So you should have it back, and I'm gonna hide the results. So if you click the play button, Chaco, and show screen. Yep, we can see your slides. You're back in action.
Awesome. Now it's faster. I'm happy. Good. 1 second. Just there we go. So thanks a lot again for participating in the poll. We will actually have a second one. And well, talking about the challenges as I listed them, the first one is obviously the fact that employees have left the office and many aren't looking back. And I actually have some data to back this. And as you can see, I have two graphs in here. These are comparative graphs based on our previous and current survey. And obviously, you can see that 32% of the employees that we surveyed want to go fully remote. And we only surveyed actually companies with about 1,000 employees, as I said. So we can expect that rate to go even higher for smaller organizations. And in February 2022, some of those who indicated that they want to return to the office have already returned. So that also plays a role in these numbers. And obviously, like I said, hybrid and remote work is somehow the elephant in the room that some companies avoid addressing, and that is quite alarming. And these stats back that argument, because from 21% to 32% this year want actually fully remote working opportunities moving forward, and 42% wants hybrid working opportunity. So if you want to, let's say, increase retention rate, or if you care about your employees' desires, you better address that challenge. Of course, not every company can offer hybrid or remote, but I believe many of those who are listening to us can do it. So it is important to offer that as a solution. And the trend is clear. If you're not on board with hybrid, you will likely lose top talent. your employees will likely not be as efficient because it's their desired way of working, and your employee retention rate is going to drop. And this is our strength at AppSpace as well, right? So you can see that it is extremely complex because it's not one type of working, let's say, type that you can focus on, but it's hybrid, it's remote, and it is also in person. So we don't only deliver the tool, but we also offer consulting, let's say, as to how you can balance all of these different options. So it's not only a tool, but we have also obviously conducting surveys, talking to our customer base, collected the necessary information and experience that helps you to shape the future of your digital workplace. And the second one is, of course, companies still have a problem with employee happiness. You don't need to conduct the surveys to reach this conclusion, of course. And we also have some stats about this argument. It's a very broad topic, and I'm sure you're asking yourself, how do you measure happiness? And I will also break down those points that back this claim, but we see in, let's say, broad sense, the happiness or employee happiness this year is 85%, and we should certainly celebrate that. But interesting cuts of the data tell us a slightly different story. And one of those things, or one of that data, is that 32% of people reported that their happiness decreased this past year. And that's actually 1 in 3 of us, right? And that's very alarming. So it's also about how you formulate a question. But if a third of your employees start saying that they're not happy or they're less happy than last year, then it is actually quite alarming. And how did we reach this conclusion? Well, behind this argument, there's actually 4 points that I would like to elaborate. First one is the productivity problem. And 2 things to mention there definitely are the virtual meetings and notifications. Well, now virtual meetings are quite familiar to us. This is actually one as well. But 85% of employees report that they would be able to successfully complete their job with fewer virtual meetings. And this is actually the same number in 2021. So it's a common pain point. And lots of people can relate, right? I'm sure you can count at least 2 or 3 meetings from your calendar today that you could survive without. So it's the same challenge. So you need to be careful about how many meetings you have. Can you reduce that meeting into an email? So that's a question to ask always. And notifications, well, 54% in 2022 find frequent notification decreased productivity. And by notification, I mean whatever tool that you use, be it Slack, Teams, or anything that sends you notifications, it actually disrupts your tempo of working, right? And that is a challenge. So it's very concerning because studies show that it takes 23 minutes to regain concentration after being interrupted. And it doesn't even have to be a work-life experience, but as I'm talking to you, if I get a WhatsApp message, it will definitely derail my presentation. So notifications, people need to be, or employers need to be careful about how many of them are being displayed. Plus, it is rather stressing to be constantly reminded of the next task without allowing you to plan it on your own and without allowing you to concentrate on the current task that you're working on, right? So secondly, the information confusion. This is more about the knowledge management, let's say. A shocking statistic is that 56% of employees have been unable to find digital documents when needed while working remotely. And that's down slightly from 59% in 2021, but it still means that we're well over half of us are unable to find documents and information while working remotely. And it can be everything, right? It can be maybe an important customer document that you need to search through the emails, or maybe let's say employee benefits, and now you need to go to SharePoint or OneDrive. So that confusion really reduces the efficiency and also impacts the employee happiness, apparently. Well, third one is the social struggles. Employees lack a sense of camaraderie with their coworkers, especially, let's say, in hybrid or remote working settings, because now you don't have that water cooler conversation, or you don't share the same collaboration space with your colleagues. So that's definitely a challenge. And that absence of close relationships with your coworkers definitely result in feeling of isolation. And 47%, as I said, shared that this was a top struggle in 2021. Now it's 41% because companies slowly started to learn how to address that. And one thing to consider is definitely the way you support your customers, or sorry, your employees, to increase that camaraderie, and your tools, your technology stack definitely is something to consider when planning it, right? So fourth one is the lackluster events. It's again about ineffective culture building events that still limit relationship potential. And we see that 62% of employees say that their employers are good at this responsibility via, I don't know, maybe some weekly meetings with coworkers or some relationship building activities. And this also increased by 7%, but sometimes it's not the most exciting, let's say, way to create that company culture. I don't know, maybe a town hall is not necessarily exciting to build that company culture, while you can have that half an hour maybe to have a coffee with an actual colleague. So these, let's say, solutions have proven not to be the best neither to support your company culture. So this one is interesting, actually. If I go through the data quickly, it's about, let's say, different generations and how they struggle with this new remote work setting. And if I take a look at Gen Z, I see that 50% are struggling to find sense of belonging and culture at the company. Same applies to Gen X, nearly 50% again, millennials over 54, boomers close to 60%. So this is actually quite alarming, because it means half of our employees do not feel connected to their company culture. And what is the reason, all right? If we ask ourselves, why do the employees report such knowledge? And the reason is that I can actually summarize it in 3 points, I think. So, or 3 questions to ask yourself if you're a decision maker, if you're in the management. First off, what do we communicate to the employees? Well, obviously, the attention cycle is very short. So I see lots of ambitious internal comms or management members who really push that top-down information and send constant must-read content, etc. But after a point, we start to develop this internet habits, right, or technology habits. So we start to see that, okay, this isn't necessarily something that I relate to. So they start to ignore it, or it starts to overwhelm them and impact their efficiency. So you need to be extra careful in choosing what to do when communicating to employees, or what to share. So 2 things to consider are definitely targeting, so which information goes to who, and secondly, filtering. Maybe you might find it very interesting to talk about the last, sales leadership, and you want to send it to everyone, but it's not necessarily interesting for someone from the development team, for example. Second question to ask is, how do we approach our connection to employees and events? Well, the number of tools, as I said, it can be overwhelming. Well, the information that you share, you're using a newsletter, you're using SharePoint as a source. Again, these 2 different sources for, let's say, top-down information delivery, it can be too much. It can, again, create this feeling of overwhelming. And it's definitely something to consider when deciding on how to approach your colleagues. And again, communities, let's say the sense of community or collaboration should not necessarily be around work or formal topics, but also you need to allow the employees to feel represented in the collaboration space. Also allowing them, for example, to talk about, I don't know, maybe sports, hobbies, book reading, etc. But again, these topics, since they're not directly work related, employees can feel, yeah, maybe I will be judged. Maybe I'm not super comfortable because my manager will think I'm not actually getting work done. So to compete with that, what seniors can do is to collaborate also in such spaces, or talk about such light topics in their digital workplace, so that the employees see that, okay, this is actually something that is okay to do, right? So that's how they feel encouraged to also share their maybe own interests, right, beyond the work life in the digital workplace. Third question is, are we acting fast enough? Because just like I said, during the pandemic, maybe it was a temporary time where you can experiment stuff, but now this transition is actually quite critical, and you better create a project or create that digital workplace strategy soon enough, because it will set the tone. And now it's the time people are developing again those digital workplace habits. So the third one, the technology should be, but isn't always an enabler. This one was around the fact that technology should be an enabler, but it's not always an enabler. And how do you spot it when it's not working? And as we can see in here, 42% of employees are satisfied with their employer's tools and technologies. There's actually an increase by 3% from last year, but this increase is hardly large enough given the time and resources companies are dedicating to these types of improvements. And one thing to mention when the topic is the tech stack, the tools, etc., is shadow IT, because we observed that 32% of employees use unapproved communication tools in 2022, and this dropped from 40%, but it's still a third of your workforce. And this is actually quite common to see when you, for example, introduce a new set of tools. People have their habits, so they still want to use Teams if you recently introduced, let's say, Slack. And another point is actually that, surprisingly, tech concerns are higher amongst younger generations. It's actually quite counterintuitive, but new generations, they are used to using simpler and user-friendly platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram. So they are given the let's say, ultimate technology that focuses on the user experience. So it is not maybe, how to say, intuitive, like I said, but the older generations, they adapt such technology way faster. But I'm saying this so that it is in order to underline that we should not overlook the needs of Gen Z, but listen to every single employee or different generations, let's say. So if we take a closer look into these tech challenges, I see that we have 3 points listed in here. So obviously not everyone in the company uses the same tools and technologies. It's also personal. Sometimes people create, let's say, a topic or a blog on SharePoint, or others prefer sharing information in a Teams channel. But if you create that, let's say, also collaboration culture using the right tools and also pushing the people correctly by centralizing your, let's say, information structure in a single tool, then it helps you to also prevent such challenges. Secondly, they're buggy or unreliable. Lots of, let's say, low quality technology is still being used, and it is also causing such, let's say, problems, or adding up to the problems of employees with the technology. And thirdly, they don't integrate well with the other tools and technologies. The third one, we address it quite well actually at AppSpace, again, bringing together the physical workplace and digital workplace. But again, if I give you an example, it is about searching for information. And let's say you're looking for the document again, and one employee says it's in OneDrive, you don't have access to it. The other one points at Teams, you're not used to using it. So it's a whole lot of challenges of efficiency and time waste, let's say. So the fourth one is about the hybrid workplace and the fact that it is here to stay. So what does that mean for your business? To summarize, to more effectively support remote employees, it's important to pay attention to the tools workers are asking for. In 2022, that includes a focus on file sharing, communication, and collaboration tools, as I gave examples. And thinking of going back to the office, modern tools such as room and desk reservation or visitor management definitely completes those, let's say, that tool stack and technologies, and contributes to the employee happiness. And just like I said, this is an area where we're really, really good at AppSpace, since we focus on 2 or 3 aspects. So the last one is going to be about the inclusion of frontline and remote employees based on the findings of this survey. And if you focus on different types of working habits, this slide will show you which employees feel left out. If we look at home office, 61% feel left out because they're not sharing the same working space with their colleagues. And if we look at frontline employees, this rate goes down to 54%. It is mostly about not having, let's say, a mobile support or maybe some screens that share about the company culture or happenings at a company. Some of the employees, they don't even have an email address, right? So it's also important to support them with the right, let's say, infrastructure for them to be able to participate in the company culture. And obviously, we see that the corporate office employees, they are by 18% less left out. And the reason is they're exposed to all of those tools and they have all the gadgets, let's say, to learn about company culture, to become a part of the company culture. But again, the inefficiency of this tool set that they use, as I've elaborated, causes a fifth of them to still feel left out. So I actually have two direct feedback from our participants in the survey. The first one is from a fully remote associate and an analyst, and they say include remote staff on decisions and progress, not just letting us know afterwards. So when we were in the office, we were a part of the conversation. So it's, again, being neglected while working remotely, and it's about the inclusion. So the second one comes from a fully remote operations associate / analysts, and they say working on consistent communication to staff regarding significant changes rather than getting 10 different messages from 10 different people. And this is, again, about having a clear communication structure, and if this lacks, how it causes frustration. So before talking about the solutions to these problems that I pictured, I would actually like to have the second poll. So I will, again, allow Josh to share his screen.
Yep, sure. I'm going to launch the second poll now then. So let me get that up. Okay, you should be able to see the poll, everyone. Can you see the poll yet, Chaco?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in this poll, we're asking people, where are you in your digital transformation initiative? So I can see, give it 20 seconds, I can see those answers coming in. Okay, I'll give it another 5-10 seconds. And then we're going to share the results on the screen. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and let's share those results with everyone. So, Chaco and Jamie, any quick comments on that?
Well, first of all, digital transformation is a big buzzword, right? So not everyone have the same understanding, which is totally normal. So I'm a bit surprised, but I think it depends on the definition of seeing that almost the majority of people are in research and planning stage, while I believe most of the organizations are actually doing it. But of course, it's phased approach, and we choose first the right battles to go for. But in general, yeah, it's very interesting to see that obviously every one of us at home, at work, we go through this now, digitalizing initiatives of everything as consumers and as professionals, and obviously having a digital workplace is something that helps not to go through this per se digital transformation, but at least enable employees to work fast and proactively and be more productive to enable this business digital transformation.
Yeah, good points, Jamie. Actually, I also agree to what you said. Maybe an addition would be, I'm actually quite happy to see so much attendance from people who are already in the research and planning stage, and we're always happy to help you not from a vendor perspective, but we have a consultative approach, so always happy to exchange. And also for those who are in implementation phase, I'm sure this report that we prepared will help you see how you can improve the current project that you're working on. So really happy about the results.
Okay, yeah, and afterwards, of course, after this webinar, we're going to be sending the audience a lot of resources to help them get started. So I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to give it back to you, Chaco.
Yeah.
You should have it back now.
Let me see. Yes, I do. So let me share again. Can you see the slides?
We can see a slide.
Yep.
Where do we go from here?
Okay, that's the right one. So where do we go from here? Well, the findings are about the fact that more employees are looking for permanent change to the way they work, and organizations are not necessarily doing a fantastic job to deliver that. And we actually prepared these 3 points that could help you again to take these findings into consideration. And first one is obviously evaluate areas where where your company's technologies fall short. Think about how you collaborate, how you share top-down information, how do you enable the employees to collaborate, which tools do they dispose of, and secondly, make informed decisions about how to empower teams to communicate, collaborate, and enjoy their work. Again, communication, especially across these different working settings, hybrid, in-person, remote, it's a challenge. So you need to be able to provide them with different layers. And this is again about your technology structure. So it matters a lot. And of course, enjoy their work. It's important to highlight because this is more about the retention rate and efficiency. And if you want that to be, let's say, in a good shape, it's also important to have an inclusive technological company culture, let's say. And the third one is encourage employees to lean on technology for deeper productivity and social gains. Just like I just said, so productivity is directly related to your, let's say, digital workplace habits, and social gains, again, to increase retention and employee engagement. So I believe, Josh, you have the links to the report, but we also have it on the website. So I would definitely recommend to take a closer look into the report, because I, of course, cannot cover all of the findings, but there's really interesting, let's say, data for you to also consider, and I'm sure it will help many of you. And of course, if you're interested, I'm more than happy to offer you a complimentary digital workplace consultation. Josh will share my meeting link, I believe, and it doesn't have to be, let's say, for those who are looking for a new solution, but to exchange about your experience and have a discussion. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. So having said that, I will actually hand it over now to Jamie. Jamie, you can take it from here. You want to present yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chaco. Yes, I'll start by introducing myself. So, hello everyone. I'm Jamie. I'm head of sales and managing partner at Stellium. I'm Swiss and Portuguese, like Stellium. I'll say a few words about Stellium. And I have more than 10 years experience in digital workplace solutions. I started as a SharePoint developer more than 13 years ago now. And today I support our customers in defining their roadmap to the cloud, of course, and implementing governance strategy and adoption planning for the digital workplace. Of course, my main role is to manage sales, but I'm still very active working with customers and advise them on a daily basis too. Stellium is an IT consulting company, so it was founded in 2020 by 3 co-founders in Switzerland, and our focus is to deliver services for Microsoft Enterprise customers on the Microsoft Enterprise platforms such as Azure, Microsoft 365, and let's say the full business application stack of Microsoft. We have headquarters in Switzerland and a satellite in Portugal to serve our global customers. And our service offering is split into three main pillars. The first one being the topic of today, which is a digital workplace, to really improve the global experience of employees and overall productivity. The second pillar is business apps to digitize processes and integrate the IT ecosystem together, make things talk together and improve the efficiency of processes. And the last pillar is a cloud platform to build the foundation and define the operating model of the cloud services of our customers. Last but not least, we support our customers during the end-to-end journey to help them begin, transition, build solutions, and mature on these platforms. So that's it for Stellium. I will share my screen. Let me just select the right one. Yep. Can you see which industry needs the most a digital workplace?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. So now that we've heard about the challenges of the digital workplace, let's see together, based on also on our conversations with customers and actually consulting missions, who are the most demanding of such platforms. So we have, of course, the public sector. They need to connect services, functions, and employees together to rapidly serve citizens. They need to have the best experience for their citizen. We know that they are, for most of them, far from being digitized. They work a lot with paper-based processes, and they are now in the full transformation of digitizing as much as possible to basically accelerate the treatment of demands of citizens. We work also a lot with the pharmaceutical industry, and of course, they need to align everyone on the current regulations, the processes. They need tools to manage all this knowledge and share it efficiently to manage all the challenges and uncover pain points from all the regulations and compliance aspects. We also have the insurance industry, who is also very challenged to excel in customer service, as it's a very competitive market. And they need to rapidly create content, share it to the field force, and make sure that people who talk with customers and serve customers get the most accurate information and also adapt to change constantly. The manufacturing industry, they have, of course, a huge challenge to manage supplier logistics and all the supply chain process, and they need tailored solutions to work in teams to increase their performance, to improve this overall management of different stakeholders and save cost at the center level. But if we look at all of our customers, to summarize, every organization needs a digital workplace. The stories are different, but the problems are always the same. It's always about creating information, sharing information, and improving the information flow and creating value on top of this information to enable people to feel that they belong to the company, to feel that they bring value by creating value and additional assets to the company, and make sure that all of this flows fluently in the organization. So we've helped many types of industries from different countries to build intranets, digital assistants, knowledge management systems, custom apps, and other collaboration platforms. And while all of these are specific tailored projects, at the end they all link to what we can call the digital workplace, with the unique objective of making sure that employees access the right information at the right time and are not lost with manual processes and lack of visibility. When we talk about the digital workplace, as I've said, there are many different projects, hundreds of projects that one company can run to implement a digital workplace. Now, if we try to park this project into different categories, we have what we can call the 4 pillars of the digital workplace. The first one being the collaboration. So we need to enable people to achieve more together via collaboration features, via task management solutions, via the ability to share content, to publish content, to review content, to basically make sure that we can be together in a room or not in a room, create something, share it with others, and making sure that these others use it to deliver a specific service. There is, of course, then the ability to communicate, to make sure people get the right message from the company, of course, but also between each other to enable them to act fast, to take decisions together via meetings, via chat, via other community tools, making sure that the social layer is activated and that people can interact together. We have then, of course, the knowledge management, which consists of converting the information into actionable content, making sure that people can access what is the value of the company, which is the information via search, via document management systems, via record centers, making sure that what is confidential and critical is only accessible to certain people, but remains accessible and not into basement drawers or record files. And last but not least, to glue all of this together, we need to implement process automation solutions to enable teams to rapidly deliver value and making sure they have a streamlined approach via workflows, digital form to connect every dot of the value chain of this information together. So if you tackle these 4 dimensions, of course, you don't have to start with everything at the same time, but you are already on a good start to improve the way people work. Now, in terms of planning for the digital workplace and how and which steps should we take to go through this full strategy and set of tools to implement, we have, let's say, 3 alignments or 3 key phases to conduct. The first one being at the business level, where, of course, we need to identify what are the key pain points of our organization. As I've said before, in most organizations, the pain points are the same, but we need to translate it, of course, to business reality and business challenges. We need to define a vision, to list the key initiatives, and build a blueprint for the execution of this high-level strategy. This high-level strategy has objectives, and it's even more important in these types of projects to define success measures, KPIs, to measure what do we expect from the digital experience, what do we expect to improve productivity, how we can measure it, how we can improve the collaboration rate, the emails reduction, the meetings, etc., etc. Once we have the strategy defined, we need to go first to our users. And this is sometimes, or most of the time, something that is not avoided, but for which we don't care, we don't take enough consideration. We need to go to the users to list what are their pain points. Now that we know the organization's pain points, we break it down to teams' processes, teams' way of working, and what are the current and the new use cases that help us work. What are the current tools and processes? What are the needs, the gaps? And who are we talking about? What are the different audiences that will connect to our digital workplace? What are their current skills? What are the different communication tools that they have available, and who will use what and when? And all of this enable us to understand and to start building our change management strategy to know who to train on what, and what resources need specific coachings, what departments should be used as pilots. Basically, this will really help us now to drill down and define the full strategy for the change management, communication, and of course, something also important, define an incentive model for change, because people don't necessarily want to change, don't necessarily want to use these new tools. And for your operations to improve, you need people to use it. So it's not about just delivering tools, it's about finding ways for people to love these tools. And this is not only with technology, as you were saying before. And of course, last but not least, and the backbone of all of this is the IT level. That's then, once we have the strategy, we know where we want to go, that's where we define the new service offering. What will be the tools per use cases? If we have multiple tools for the same use cases, how are we going to deliver the right tool for the right teams? Define the governance strategy. Obviously, what are the new risks? What are the new roles and responsibilities? How are we going to manage these different services, all the demands that are linked to these services, the support, the security policies, and everything that comes with these new overall digital workplace and services that we're going to deliver? What will be our information lifecycle strategy now that we have a big picture of all the content produced, the different processes, and the new tools that will produce content? How are we going to manage records, archive, data loss prevention, and such scenarios? And last but not least, what is our roadmap? What is the services, the cloud infrastructure, the SaaS products, the analytics, the communication services that we're going to build, implement, in what order and when. And this is all about planning the execution, planning the implementation of these platforms. Now, when to start? I mean, all of us work in different companies. We all have different levels of maturity, personally and at the organization level, to deal with these technologies. So when should you start? When is the best ideal way to start? Well, the answer is you can start at any time. Of course, there are different levels of maturity. We can simplify by grouping into 4 main categories or 4 levels. If we have a look at them, we can see that these 4 levels, of course, the more we mature, the more we enable employees to adopt self-service mechanism to connect together. But if we start at the base level, that's where most organizations has obviously started. That's where you basically start by sharing global information to everyone as if you had only one audience. And these are these typical intranets where you have corporate announcements, global policies, and an employee directory to know who's the boss of who and who can I contact if I have an issue. If we go to the next level, we start to enable this collaboration feature, and we start to link our digital workplace with global processes and solutions. We start to implement collaboration spaces, whether it is Slack, SharePoint team sites, or other tools. We start to have specific department spaces with potentially the ability to trigger business processes from this department space, such as travel requests, employee onboarding, and things like that. That's when we start to link external systems into our digital workplace, not necessarily integrate these external systems, but at least starting to have links and synergies between what concerns all employees and the existing solutions we have. And of course, we start to build support for processes via documentation, digital forms, and light and simple workflows. Then we have the next level where we start to enable people to engage together. And this is the foundation of what I would call the modern workplace, where we have apps and processes that become to be integrated. You have a global search for everything. The search is obviously intelligent, knows who you are, what you're looking for, and what to show you. You have communities of interest. You have automated processes per teams, per departments. You start to have really the ability for people to work in your digital workplace and in all these tools, instead of going through every different application and every different center of records to start actually playing with this information. That's where you start to have the ability to bring everything into one place. And then you have the ultimate level that is obviously open for constant improvement, where not only you enable collaboration, but you enable both internal and external people to work with you. And you start to have in place social networks. You start to have teams that can access their own content and processes, where basically you even have a self-service approach where people can by themselves request a collaboration space, onboard a partner, onboard a customer. You start to have really this self-service platform where people can engage together via comments, suggestions. They can convert ideas into projects without having to define a strategy at the top level. And that's where you start to have a lot of agility and content that is created with a fast pace. And that's where your user starts to feel engaged and belonging to something bigger than just the scope of their work. And of course, the more you mature, the more your employee experience will be connected, will enable people to be productive inside and outside the workplace. So let's say with colleagues and with partners and customers, and you will provide them this self-service platform where basically they know what to use when, and they know how to request something new, how to create a new space, and how to activate all of these use cases by themselves. The journey is obviously long, but it's never too late to always improve. And of course, to make this feasible, you need a strong governance model. And that's where to have this self-service approach, you'll have to understand very well the audiences, the information produced, the life cycle of information, what can be done, what can be not done. And you can make it transparent for end users, making them feel that everything is open and they can play with that self-service platform, but at the end, still having a strong governance model in place and making sure that you don't lose data, you don't lose important information. So that's it for the digital workplace, let's say, very light implementation framework. Again, it's all about defining the business case and finding the right technology and make it evolve. And as I've said, yeah, it's never too late to start.
Okay, if you can leave it on that slide, Jamie, that would be great. So I know we have 5 minutes left to go now. Well, thank you, Jamie and Chaco, for your presentations. A lot of information, a lot of great stuff to take away. We do have time for a couple of quick questions from the audience. So, Chaco, I'm going to ask you a question that we received. So a person saying, our company uses MS Teams. How can we integrate that into our digital workplace? I guess that's like a common question that you get from people.
Yeah, I actually hear that question a lot, and obviously Microsoft Teams has been evolving a lot. It used to be just like Slack, a tool for quick communication to send short messages, but now with Viva, I see there are really ambitious plans of Microsoft, but Teams still remains as a synchronous collaboration tool. What I mean by it is that it is still very tough to find document or information. If it's, let's say, from a couple of months back, it's really easy to lose content. So it does not really give you that horizon. But then again, many of the companies that work with us prefer including Teams to their tech stack, and we also do it quite successfully. Since we are a Microsoft first solution, we actually make use of every tool that Microsoft has. And they have so many cool stuff, of course, but it's mostly fragmented, that lacks that centralized UX. So we are very good at it. It's still our own UX that we develop, but you will also have access to Microsoft Teams, and you will also have access to the intranet from within Microsoft Teams, because we also exist in there. We have customers using, let's say, Teams as the primary gateway to their intranet. And so that is how we enable Microsoft Teams in your intranet. For example, if you want to also enable Viva connections, you can literally do it with 2 clicks, and it will be a part of your BZ UX.
Thanks, Chaco, for that answer. And actually, next week, AppSpace has a Microsoft webinar. So if anyone's interested, I'm going to put the link in the chat now. So if anyone's interested, they can join that webinar next Tuesday. A question for Jamie. So you were talking about the 4 pillars there in one of your slides. If you'd have to pick one pillar of the digital workplace as the most relevant one, which one would it be?
There isn't a most relevant one, but there is an order of doing things, and what we see from experience is that people start with communication, and communication is not only having a chat feature or being able to do meetings, because this even came after. Initially, it's already about communicating via emails, via the intranet, via whatever is the tool to send messages from top to bottom, but also between teams together. And sometimes something that is not yet implemented everywhere is to get messages from the bottom to the top, such as thanks to social networks and platforms that enable people to have communities of interest and create IDs and develop these IDs together. So I would say communication is not the most important, but is the base to start. Even to build the rest, you need to communicate.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've literally got a minute left, so I'm going to wrap up and then we're going to finish. I'm sure many people have to jump onto other meetings. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone for joining today's webinar. Again, thanks to Chaco and Jamie for your presentations. And as mentioned before, we're trying to get the webinar recording out today or latest tomorrow, so you'll definitely have it before the weekend. And we'll also send the slides to you. So yeah, thank you very much from the AppSpace and Stellium teams, and hopefully we'll see you again in another webinar. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you need any information. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.